Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
At a systemic level, the compasses, after modest inquiry, start to point out a couple of sort of fundamental truths. Organizations and even individual organisms in a system have a desire to grow. It's either a stated desire or it's built into the system itself. Organizations, all that kind of stuff, it's all designed to grow. And as it does, the appetites of that system increase, the demands increase, the desires increase, the scope tends to increase. And so you can very quickly look at a systemic level and apply the compasses to that and understand that those appetites, if they are unsustainable, if they add a tax to the systems from which they emerge, you run into some very discrete problems pretty quickly. And that is almost always capacity, right? Without the appropriate amount of capacity to solve those organizational appetites, you're going to go through these cycles. And the cycle looks something like an overreach or a demand that's too high, some level of strain on that system, then either a correction of some sort or a complete collapse, and then a restart. You'll see this in patterns in across society and across kind of most major organizations. Look for like Cory Doctorow's blog entry on enshittification, talking about how the internet works. This pattern of overreach, withdrawal, collapse, and then restarting is something that kind of repeats itself over and over and over again. So when you look at your own sort of situation and ways to apply the systemic understanding of the compass, it makes sense to start to say, okay, well, what are the things that I have direct influence and control over? How can I exert that influence in a way that allows us to either build capacity to support those, the demand that's inevitably coming, or what can we do to reshape that demand in a way that's sort of manageable, given the capacities we have? The boundaries in this case, just like we talked about boundaries in relationships, the boundaries between organizations start to become useful for creating that scalability that you need. I'll give you a kind of an easy example, right? This is where you would outsource. You would outsource certain functionalities or certain capacities at an organizational level. You would have somebody else do payroll, for example, or you would have somebody else do your dental work, or whatever the case may be. There are a lot of situations at a systemic level where it just doesn't make sense for you to attempt to solve some of these problems on your own, that in order to maintain sort of scalability and functionality, you will have to outsource, and you'll have to understand those relationships between the organizations and structures and ideas and concepts in your life such that it doesn't become a place of collapse. So what do? You look around to those places where, again, you're overtaxed, where you might be in a situation where it makes sense to move a function to a third party or a capacity to a third party to, again, give you the systemic sort of responsiveness to be able to scale and grow. It builds that scalability into the conversation in a way that allows the organism, whatever that might be, yourself personally, or the organizations you're a part of, your work, your lodge, what have you, do the things you're good at, take the things out that you're not good at, negotiate the relationships between those two in a consistently repeatable way, and then allow the organization to flourish as all organizations essentially are designed to do. This is something that every structural organization, every internal sort of model, they very rarely do they sit in sort of equilibrium for long. There will always be a desire to grow and change and evolve.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.